Today on the Hartley Show, we're going to talk about some Justice League and Justice League related books with a focus on Justice League International. Hiya! So first off, we're going to talk about Constantine and how this ties into Justice League is, of course, the new Justice League Dark book that Constantine is the de facto leader of. So they've canceled the classic Constantine book, Hellblazer, and they've placed him thoroughly in the DC Universe, and I thought this was actually quite good, surprisingly good. You got Jeff Lemire and Ray Fox and Renato Guedes, or whatever the fuck you say his name, and this really nailed it. You know, I was really happy with a lot of stuff. One, he's smoking throughout the book. I was worried they weren't going to actually have him smoking because he's a chain smoker. In fact, the original version of this cover had a smoke hanging out of his mouth, and I don't want to say too much because I will ruin it, but one of the best things about this book is the ending. He's hanging out with this guy. It has a very, very John Constantine ending, and I actually really recommend this for Constantine fans. Next up, we've got Vibe number 2. I really enjoyed number 1 and had lots of great little Easter eggs in it. And I really enjoyed issue number 2. Basically, the concept here is Vibe is this new hero who gained his powers in from the first story arc in the main Justice League story arc, where Darkseid shows up, and with all this weird vibrational interdimensional stuff, it affects his body, so now he has these vibrational powers that have to do with dimensional vibrations as well. So he can, I believe, detect and affect interdimensional beings, which of course anybody from Apocalypse is. The second issue starts off with this strange, enigmatic creature that you can't understand anything he's saying. You don't know what it is he's doing. He comes off as some sort of menace. And this is sort of Vibe trying to find his way out. They've introduced him into the Justice League, and he doesn't really know his role in the Justice League. Everybody sort of thinks, what the fuck? You don't really have much in the way of really powers. Why would they ask you to join the Justice League? But little does he know, they have got a great reason to join the Justice League, because they actually, the group Argus, understands his powers better than he does. I really enjoyed the beats this issue went through, and this character in particular has a great story arc, and I'm really curious to see where they're going with this character. There's also another character that shows up here later in this section here. I don't want to spoil anything, but this was really cool shit. I enjoyed the hell out of this book, and I highly, highly recommend it. It could use slightly better art, in my opinion, but a solid book. Next up, we got the actual Justice League of America book, the new book. This is number 2. Now, this cover is somewhat misleading because the team has not really been formed yet, and Baz hasn't even been seen yet in the book. I'm enjoying this book. I do have some minor nitpicks. I've been finding that David Finch's art has been sort of odd in a sense. There's been some weird choices he's made that have contradicted these characters' already brief histories, and I absolutely despise what he's doing with Stargirl's staff weapon. But otherwise, it's been really, really good. Great intro here with Scarecrow, sort of a whole new take on sort of his mentality and the idea that Scarecrow is Scarecrow because he wants to be scared himself. He gets off on it. I think it gives him sort of a boner is the idea. They're doing some great stuff with Steve Trevor in this book. And I'm really enjoying it, as I say. But also, as I said, like, if you can see that right there, I don't know if you can make that out. But Stargirl's staff looks like this big, weird scythe now, and it's kind of pissing me off. Another weird factor is that Hawkman, in his series, his weapons were grown from the nth metal inside of his body, but now his weapons just seem like classic sort of weapons that hang off his side. I don't know if that's intentional or not, although I am liking what they're doing with things overall. It seems to be weirdly inconsistent with what came prior in the short history of the DC New 52 so far, but that is just sort of a minor nitpick. And again, some really fun stuff here. I am quite enjoying this book. What I also want to show off here is that this is the new Martian Manhunter backup story, and the tragedy of this backup story is that it's actually drawn by Scott Clark, who just recently died at a very young age. It's really, really tragic this guy died, but here's, I believe, probably the last thing he's ever done for comics. Little known fact! All of us on the crew grew up with this version of Battlestar Galactica, and as adults, we all ended up working on this version of Battlestar Galactica. We got the core Justice League book. They just wrapped up the Atlantis story arc, the Atlantis War story arc, and this particular issue is all about their new recruitment stuff, and I fucking love this issue. One of the coolest things about this book is that they have this classic roster call off on the side, and that's one of the things I loved about the old Justice League books in a giant, giant way. They introduce a buttload of characters to the Justice League in this issue, and I'll show you quickly. Here you go. There's another shot of the roster call there. You got Black Canary, Black Lightning, Blue Devil, Element Woman, Firestorm, Gold Rush, who's a new character, Nightwing, Platinum, Vixen, and Zatanna, who a good chunk of them look like they're actually going to be joining the Justice League, and I'm quite excited about this. It was great to see some Metal Men, too, in the Justice League right now, and I'm also a big fan of Jesus Sayaz, or however the fuck you say this guy's name. I've been enjoying the hell out of Justice League right from the get-go, and I don't think it's dropped a beat at all. Highly recommended.
Today's 10 and 30 brought to you by Beercraft.
Dark Avengers, totally fantastic. I'll miss this book. Nova number 2, hated number 1, like number 2. Ultimate Spider-Man, been solid since day 1. Threshold the Hunted, I love Captain Karat. Batman, sigh. Legion of Superheroes, got great again. Batwoman, fantastic. Green Lantern New Warriors, Cable and X-Force, this book sucks. JSA Liberty Files, Whistling Skull, oh. I'm going to talk about the Justice League International series. Now, this was sort of a weird thing DC did. When they put out Justice League, they also came out with this Justice League International book. The concept being that the UN puts together their own version of the Justice League, but it was filled with all sorts of weird inconsistencies. And actually, the reason I want to talk about this is because it illustrates how messed up the idea of, or how messed up the organizational qualities of the New 52 were. But this shot of all these basic characters that were going to be considered for membership in the Justice League. But for one, you've got Captain Atom here, colored in a way he was never colored before. In the current universe, he didn't actually have gloves or boots. You've got the Creeper, who hasn't even actually been introduced in the New 52 universe yet. Congarilla, the same. Plastic Man, the same. Buona Beast, the same. Metamorpho, the same. It was kind of weird. And then when they go through the roster of characters they're talking about introducing into the group, they mention Blue Beetle. Now, when this first issue came out, Blue Beetle was just a bad guy. In his book, he was never actually considered a good guy, really, ever. He was just this guy that the cops were after, and they clearly wanted to make him into a good guy character that they never really got along to. But this Justice League International series, you'll see, all they ever treated him as was like he was the Blue Beetle from the prior continuity. I found that really strange. Booster Gold, who's been talking about how he doesn't even know anybody and they haven't had any time to plan or figure anything out. When they need to take off, he says, initiating evac plan Delta 33, and they all know what the fuck he's talking about. He just talked about a page before that. He doesn't even know their names, but they've all coordinated evac plan Delta 33? What the fuck? And the cover for this issue, this character. This character doesn't show up anywhere in this series ever. What the fuck? Who the fuck is she, man? This is weird shit. And then, of course, I wanted to point out this moment here, which was also batshit weird. You've got General August and Iron and Godiva hanging out, and this wayward van comes approaching towards him. So rather than just stop the thing, he rips off his clothes for no reason whatsoever. And then there's this, they show him ripping off his shirt, but then his pants are magically gone. All sorts of weird, inconsistent moments. In the second collected edition, you got this moment where Booster Gold, there's been this big explosion, and Tora has been KO'd, and he goes to protect her with a force field, but this really fucking weird thing happens, where suddenly he's dragging her along with this force field, and somehow he's got a tractor beam capability he's never, ever had before or after. Weird shit. Another thing I wanted to point out was that in this giant explosion, the only person that dies is the second most invulnerable guy. Rocket Red in his armor, for some reason, is murdered. And you can see it's cut right through his armor. Yet, Ice and all these other characters that don't have any protective capabilities whatsoever live somehow with, like, broken leg here, you know, little minor... No, I won't say minor injuries, but the idea that the armored guy died, whereas a whole bunch of regular human beings lived, was fucked right this shit up. The last issue of the entire series ends here. But the wrap-up to the series was a one-shot annual, reprinted here, written by Jeff Johns. And this was probably the best issue of the whole run. What the idea being that they're sort of trying to reform the team, and it's all kind of getting fucked up. And this is, again, one of these moments where Booster Gold is introduced to the team, The idea being that he's going to be one of the new members, but at this point he still should just be considered a bad guy. It was kind of weird. I don't understand what was going on with editorial and all this stuff. Now, as much as I've bitched about this, I actually did find these books entertaining in a classic superhero sense. I don't mean to make it seem like these books were absolute shit, because I actually did enjoy them, but there were these weird inconsistencies, and that's what I wanted to point out, particularly in the sense that it showed that DC really didn't have all their ducks in a row, as it were. They didn't really know where they were going with things, and nothing showed it off more than this. Now, weirdly, the series was canceled, even though the sales were doing quite well, and I believe a lot of what they were doing with this was just trying to set up some basic themes in the New 52, and that last issue I just showed off set up some really important themes, I think. And I don't want to spoil the last page of this, but the last page of this was a big whoop. And I believe in the next couple of months, we're going to see with the DC what the fuck, or whatever they're calling it, is WTF month. We're going to see the resurgence of Booster Gold, and also the resurgence of the last story arc, which again, I don't want to blow for you right here and now. Little known fact, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was training for Conan, he used a 40-pound sword. That's effing heavy, dude. So there you have it, Justice League books. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching, and a giant thanks to Taz for letting us film here. Thanks for watching, ciao.